Reactive Design Studios, and welcome to our CGT 411 final presentation. Our project this semester has focused on redesigning and improving the look and features of the computer graphics technology website here at Purdue through research and usability testing. Today, we'll be introducing our team. We'll be talking about the foundations of our product. We'll be showcasing our product itself. We'll be running through our testing and the different procedures we use. We'll be examining the results of the testing. So without further ado, let's get started with some introductions.
I'm Mary Hutzer. I'm a senior. My specialization is in user experience and graphic design.
My name is Miles Hyatt. My specialization is in web design.
My name is Tony Lawrence. I'm a CGT senior, and I specialize in graphic design.
And I'm Jason Kinsley, specializing in web development and graphic design. And I'm minoring in organizational leadership services and certified in entrepreneurship and innovation. And today, I'll be talking about the foundations of our product, which involves how we got started, who was involved, and the like. So it all started with two problems that we noticed in the CGT department. The first of which is evident in our problem statement. The Purdue University Computer Graphics Technology website doesn't implement the industry standards of responsive design or user experience design, and it also doesn't clearly convey what CGT is all about. The second problem is one that's been whispered about and talked about around the CGT department for some time now, and that's that the enrollment and retention rates for students in CGT has been declining for years. And we verified this with multiple faculty members at the onset of our project. And these two problems were combined and addressed together because we believe that they are correlated in some way. So with these two issues looming in our mind, when Professor Glatzbaugh offered to be a sponsor for a project in CGT 411 that involved working with the Computer Graphics Technology website, we jumped at the chance, and Reactive Design Studios is born. Our mission statement in 411 has been to redesign and improve aspects of the Computer Graphics Technology website through the usability testing in hopes of indirectly combating the declining enrollment and retention rates of computer graphics students. And this project was built on four very important pillars. Those pillars are responsive design, which is our emerging technology, user experience design, which is all about designing for the user's wants and needs, and also making your website as easy to use as possible. Search engine optimization, which basically boils down to being in the top 5 search results for any relevant queries in any given search engine. And according to the article, What is Search Engine Optimization? This is done through validated HTML coding and extensive use of meta tags. And our final pillar for this project is engaging content. And what we mean by this is using the content and text areas on the website to create a strong voice that can be used to market to prospective students. Along with this, we chose to use 4 user groups during this project to design for and to test on, and we are also lucky enough that they give us extensive feedback throughout the process. These 4 user groups are current CGT students, prospective CGT students, parents of both current and prospective students, and the faculty in the CGT department. We chose these 4 user groups based on their importance and relevance to the growth and prosperity of the computer graphics technology program at Purdue. Now, you may have noticed that I kind of glanced over our emerging technology, and this is because I wanted to devote a little extra time to explaining it and explaining what it means for the computer graphics technology website. So responsive web design, which I know has been mentioned by a couple other 411 groups so far during the last 2 days, is a process by which, according to Ethan Marcotte, the inventor of responsive web design in his article on A List Apart, a web designer uses liquid layouts and CSS media queries to create a series of different CSS layouts that are optimized for a number of varying size devices. The media queries then constantly check the size of the display of the user's device and adjust between layouts accordingly. Now, critics and users are starting to really catch on to this and really like this process because it greatly enhances accessibility. Without responsive web design, a person on a smaller device such as a smartphone or a touch device is forced to use a CSS layout that is optimized for a big screen and a mouse as opposed to the device that they're using. And as this moves closer and closer to a web usability standard, a lot of the big names on the internet are starting to take notice of it. For example, Twitter has created a coding platform called Twitter Bootstrap, which allows people with not a lot of web development experience to create this website very easily that is also responsive. And now before I hand it off to Miles to talk about the product and actually show it to you, I want to leave you with a meaningful quote. And this one comes from Dave Rupert, the lead developer at Paravel Inc. The future of web and mobile design is that there is no distinction between the two. Mobile-first responsive web design is probably the trend to stick with in the near future. Now here's Miles.
Okay. Our product is a new envisionment of the CGT website. The goal is not to completely redesign, completely change it, but just to improve the content, improve and implement new features and functionalities, and then also make it responsive. First thing, big change that we made in regards to content is the links and navigation. We use our cart sorting and free listing surveys to justify what should be displayed on the top and side navigation. Secondly, we also moved the student information and student showcase up to a more prominent position on the homepage, because this is the first interaction a prospective student's going to have with the major. And it's important to have information relevant to them in a place that they can find easier. In addition to that, we use Purdue branding toolkit and color palette, utilizing the secondary colors to emphasize important features within the page. And to illustrate the importance of color use on a website, Shannon Nowak, a practicing professional in web design, states that color of blue demonstrates trustworthiness, intelligence, reliability, and is often used in corporate sites to have them kind of stand out as a reliable company. In addition to a bright yellow that exudes optimism, happiness, joy, and electrifying intensity and relevancy. And you notice we use these colors from the palette to do that for this page and make it more engaging for the user. Secondly, we also included links to social media outlets, because this will make it more socially engaging online, in addition to being a free way to market and get people to the site. And a quote from Sylvia Pancake, which states that social media, she's an online consultant and social media consultant for large firms, and she says that social media in itself is an easy, relevant way to get relevant and large traffic to a site. And now I'm going to move on to what else we did. And the first thing, big change that we did was with the banner right here. We also made it larger because it is shown to be one of the first things people look at. Secondly, we made it dynamic so we can have more things running, more stories, more interest. And third, instead of making just a little heading of it clickable and like it was in the old site, we made the entire image clickable to send you to the story. And then that brings me to our next thing that we added to it, is defining what CGT is. Before, the definition of CGT was rather lengthy and wordy and had a bunch of jargon in it. And this idea for this section actually came from Professor Burton from Margot. It is defining the major through the antithesis, which is what isn't CGT. And it asks the question to the user to engage with a CGT affiliate to find out what kind of things are CGT grads prepared for to work in industry. And this is something that we hope to drive engagement, because once you have that engagement, you bring about a relationship. And they can tie that answer and the engagement with the CGT affiliate to the major itself. Now I'm going to bring on to our next section we led to on the homepage, which is jobs that CGT can lead to. This is the 4 areas of study in the major, and if you click on them, it'll drop down a selection of career opportunities. Because after all, we all go to college to get a job. And the next, I'm going to show you guys is the responsive design. This is our biggest implementation of this. As you notice, it changes based upon the width of your browser. And this goes down to mobile form. And responsive design, as Jason said, is the future of web design thought by a lot of people in the industry. And it's pertaining to this subject because based upon the Google Analytics data from the old site, in the last 2 years, mobile use of the site has more than doubled, going from 25,000 to roughly 65,000. And with that being said, I'm going to hand it off to Mary to talk about our usability testing.
Could you pull the PowerPoint back for us?
Okay. For our testing, we did 2 types. At first, we did pilot studies, and then we did our actual product testing. So at first, we broke our pilot studies up into 3 categories. We did a free listing test, we did a card sorting test, and then we did a survey. As you can see, we broke up our user groups into each of the studies to test. First, our free listing test. This test allows the user to create a list of items which they expect to see on a CGT site. So as you can see, the test was a basic and simple layout with a large text box. And then in this text box is where the users put keywords that they would expect to find on the site. Card sorting. This card sorting test allows us to understand the thought process of our users and testers. This card sorting test, we gave the users a list of items on the left here, and we got these items from the current CGT site. So they're links, main navigational areas, and then main graphics. So through this test, we asked the users to drag the items over to the big area on the right, and then to create groups and sections and where they would expect the things to be categorized and listed together. On our surveys, we use Purdue Qualtrics, and then these surveys, we ask basic questions about the website and how the user felt about its appearance and its functionality. From these questions, we learned what the users liked and didn't like, and then room for improvement. We asked questions about feelings, how they felt about the content. Did they feel the amount of text on the page was appropriate? Did they like the graphic, the main banner here? And did they feel that it could be improved from a more dynamic display image? For our actual product testing, we did it in person with a paper survey. We used an iPad and a computer. For the actual test, we broke it up into 2 groups. As you can see here, we tested different information. By breaking it up this way, we were able to test the users on multiple platforms. So for our actual testing, the user was randomly assigned to test A or B, and we had them sit down. They filled out a basic form first of all the demographics information, and then we asked them a question: how difficult they felt that it would be to find the specific information. From here, we had them sit down and take the test on one of the devices. A member of our group, we stood behind them, and we timed them, and then we counted the number of clicks it took them to find the information. After they had completed the test, we had them sit down and fill out a portion of the survey, and then they answered questions related to the version of the survey, or the version of the site that they tested on. And questions asked them more relative to the site, how they liked it, was it easy, and things like that. And then we had them move to a different device, and we did a similar test with the same user, but we switched the device, we switched the content that they were looking for, and then we switched the version of the site. Once again, we stood behind them, timed them, and counted the number of clicks. We then recorded this information, and we had them take the similar survey and ask all the same questions, but once again, it was to go along to the most recent site that they had tested on. Through these findings, we had a big improvement from the old site to our site. Overall, we had 41 testers, ranging from freshmen to graduate students to faculty and staff. And now Tony is going to talk more about our results.
What we learned from the pilot studies. What do you use most on the computer graphics technology website? This was a question used in one of our studies. We had some insight to find out what the users were looking for on the site. The suggestions that were given to us were the plan of study, course web pages, Cogent, and the latest news. This here is a heat map that we took from one of our tests. Ted Selker explains heat maps provide mouse activity that is useful for understanding what the user is viewing and an aid to find potential problems with a web page. The user was asked a question about the page here, and it said, when you look at the CGT website, when you first glance at the CGT website, where do you look? And as you can see by this, you can see where the darker colors are, the warm colors is where most of the activity was done. We had approximately 60 responses on this. What we learned from our product testing, the current site versus the new site. And these are the results. When using a computer to find the plan of study, it took 1 minute and 1 second, an average of 1 minute and 1 second on the current site to find the plan of study. On the new site, it took an average of 10 seconds to find the plan of study. We also counted the number of clicks it would take to find the plan of study. On the old site, it took an average of 5 clicks, where on the new site, it took an average of 2 clicks. We also did a test on the iPad to find Professor Glotzbaugh's phone number. On the old site, to find the phone number, it took an average of 15 seconds, and on the new site, it took an average of 26 seconds. We also counted the number of clicks on the old site, and it only took an average of 1 click, where it took an average of 2 clicks on the new site. We did find some issues with the site, so we had to go back and correct them. One thing, for instance, that we did notice was on the iPad, the navigation links could have been bigger on the new site. We noticed when users were testing, they would go to touch a link and have to maybe touch it twice because it wasn't big enough, and that resulted in longer times and more clicks to finish the task at hand. What we learned from the project. We found out that trying to design a new CGT website was a very big project. We learned we had to narrow our scope to what the users were most wanting. So we asked you, what do you use on the CGT website? How often do you use the website? And what are some improvements you would like to see? We got a lot of information from the surveys so we could implement them to the new site. And the future goals for this project, we would like to see this become a legacy project in CGT 411. Future students can continue where we left off to improve the CGT website. We would like the CGT department to also join in and be proud of the website and update information on a regular basis.
All right, and that pretty much concludes our presentation today. We have a lot of special things because we had a lot of support on this project. Professor Burton, Professor Glassfire, Dr. V, Perry, Spencer, Kevin, Brian, who was our stat consulting representative, Matthew Boothby, who was our IAB member, Professor Morales, Beard Marketing, Martin designed the Glatzbach photo, so we figured we'd definitely throw him in there. And everyone who participated in our studies, and very special thanks to our wonderful parents who supported us throughout our academic endeavors. I know my mom's actually live streaming right now. So now we'll open it up to questions. Yeah.
On your testing methodology, your testing is quite comprehensive. How did you plan out all the different types of tests you were going to do and the different instruments you used? For example, you have surveys, you had some questionnaires, you did some time testing, you did a number of clicks. How did you decide on the methodology?
Well, at first, we had a big idea. At first, we wanted to do so many things, but we could quickly realize we didn't have enough time to do all this. So one thing we thought important was when we did our pre-surveys, we asked a lot of people, what do you look for, and then why do you have difficulty finding it? And they said there's just things weren't in areas that they thought it would be. So we wanted to make things more prominent, and so we wanted to see by timing them if it did take them less time to find what they were looking for. And so we thought clicks was another way that we could validate that. If the number of clicks decreased, then we did our job and we put it in a more prominent area that they could find it easier.
Where did you come up with the heat map?
The heat map was from the pilot studies. I'm not sure if it was made clear during the presentation, but the timeline went pilot studies, creating the product testing. So we used pilot studies as usability testing before we actually created the product to get a better idea of what our user groups wanted. And the heat map was from a couple different surveys of basic students and I believe prospective.
It was the prospective students and then the
Basic survey where anyone could take that. So we had a total of 60 people and they were almost identical heat maps.
And where did you come across this heat map
It's
idea?
through the Purdue Qualtrics survey.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So it was really nice to use.
That's a good use
Very
of
good.
technology.
Yeah.
Visual.
The heat map, is that a quick map?
Yeah.
Yes.
So the actual question was, click the area where your eye goes to first, or when you first glance at the website. And so for the question, they just had the cursor and they clicked it, and then they left a mark on it. So that's all that was.
Yeah, Josh.
Hey, did you just test CDD students or did you test like non-technical students? Or?
Well, we actually wanted to make sure we got a very wide range of participants in the study. So we opened it to CGT students, and of course we offered cogent opportunities for them, but we also used our various networks on our campus to open it to as many non-CGT participants as we could. We also had some graduate students take part in the study.
There was one instance where it took a little bit longer than the old website, but with like a few more clicks. In that instance, was it that the students didn't know where they were going, or was it that things were laid out smoother so that the students were more, or the testers were more confident in where they were at?
It's hard to tell because there's a lot of different reasons why that could have been that way. People could be used to the way the old site was laid out, and they're trying to find their information in the same spot on our redesigned, reimagined website. Like Tony said, one of the usability issues that we ran into on our product testing was that the links on an iPad weren't like big enough to be optimized for touch. So that could have been another reason why the clicks and the time were higher.
And then another issue that I noticed was when they were using the iPad, decided to use it, they were like scrolling through it, and then they'd scroll to the bottom, and then they would just look at the links that were on the right sidebar instead of scrolling back to the top and looking at the main navigational link. So I know that caused a few more clicks, whereas on the computer, everything was all right there in the one screen. So they weren't scrolling as much as they were on the iPad. So I know that caused a few more clicks as well.
And it's a part of the reason why we like this to be a legacy project, because you can never have too much usability testing. And I'm sure over time, more and more tests, we find a lot more ways to change and improve the website based on the wants and needs of the
What made you guys decide to do a different task for the old site and the new site? For example, like, I think you said one was to find the phone number and the other one was to find the course list. And do you think that that made your testing, I guess, that could have resulted in like one being better than the other because they're different tests?
Well, we talked about this with our with Brian, who did the stats with us, and he suggested that we maybe do 2 different things to compare. And so at first we wanted to do 4 things, and he was like, "That's just gonna blow the number of people that you need to like test like out of the water." So he said, just stick it down to 2, and then just cross-reference them. And so he provided all the statistics on that for us, and so he pretty much backed us up on that.
So it didn't necessarily matter if you're doing the same task.
If we would have used the same task on both devices and used the same participant the way we did, by the time they got to the second task, they would have a much clearer understanding of where
Sure.
the activity or the piece of information might be, so that might have skewed our data.
Okay. I have one more question. If you go back to your site that you made, I think at the bottom where it said like what jobs can have in CGT, I noticed the word jobs was in purple, and you had some interesting stuff on color research. So I wondered why you chose purple, or if maybe it was blue and it just looked purple to me.
No, it is purple. It's actually one of the colors off the branding website.
Oh, okay.
And the reason I chose to go with that one is because I tried to balance the warm and cool colors for emphasis. Because we had a lot of cool with the blue there, and so I tried to balance in a design sense out between the 2 warm colors on photoing and transferring and jobs. It
Okay.
was just a design choice.
Okay, I was just wondering.
David?
Do you think with more time allowed or with future groups, if they're in legacy, would there be consideration on the actual data content itself? Because it still seems kind of like a data dump. No offense, I mean, I know that's not your concern, but would that be a concern?
Well, I mean, it's definitely part of what we looked at, trying to take it from looking like data dump into more engaging content.
Right.
But that would definitely need to be something that someone more qualified, like a marketing and media department, would need to pick up, because it's a very fine art trying to write in a voice that really gets prospective students excited and kind of draws them in. So that's part of why we want the department to take a harder look at the website in the future, because then there will be more opportunity for that.
Right, yeah, I like the restructuring and navigation. I just wondered who had the authority to actually push out all the information and if there was a filter that could be involved. Yeah.
Dr. Lee?
Can you clarify for me what research you did to understand the user's needs and goals?
The pilot studies came before the actual implementation and design of the website. So we did the free listing, the card sorting, and the surveys, and we tried to spread those out as much as possible over our user groups and get as many participants as we could. Additionally, we did a lot of outside research through sources of various, like we did research on search engine optimization, we did research on responsive design. We hit our pillars, and then we also tried to do a lot of research on similar websites and how they were improving, like other like college admissions type websites and similar things that would have a lot of the same information, the same layout as our website.
I actually do have a couple of follow-up questions. One of them is, why do you use the words pilot testing instead of user research?
Well, we're using the words pilot studies because for some instances, such as with our card sorting, we didn't get as many participants as we would have hoped, but we still got a lot of good insight in the situation.
Can you summarize for me, for any one user group that you can think of first, their main goals and tasks for the site?
Yeah, just one or all of them.
Whichever one you think is your priority.
Okay, well, prospective students and their parents are definitely a huge priority on the site. They're trying to find out where this major can lead them after college, what types of courses they'll be taking in this major, so something like plan to study. The jobs offered on the main page would be something they'd like to see.
Is this coming from your research?
Yes.
step then for a follow-on test based on what you just said and what you just answered? Is there a logical next step for future research with regards to a participant pool?
Well, sure. I mean, we would have liked to achieve more participants in our card sorting and our free listing. A lot of our participants in free listing were parents, so if we could extend that to other user groups, see what they find most prominent and most important about the site and what they find least important, I mean, it could go on for a long time.
Sure.
We had this semester to make sure we could get the most important things. There's always secondary.
Well, I understand. I'm just asking about future research. You know, it might be a good idea to target high school students and test them.
We actually, that's one of the things that we did with the prospective student surveys.
Oh, you did? Good.
Yeah, we
Okay,
sent
that's
that out
sorry.
to high school students. And so
Awesome.
that's what, we got that
Okay,
information.
that's a good thing.
So you went over how like the layout adjusts as you resize it, right?
Mhm.
So couldn't that lead to issues with people not being able to find what they're looking for because they're expecting it in a different location? Like they're on a different screen. Did you do any research in regards to that, or is there any kind of fail-safe? So like say I'm looking for the plan of study like on the webpage, but I'm on a smaller screen than I normally am. So the layout's changed, but I go to look for where it normally would be. Has that been an issue at all, or has it been intuitive enough that that's never come up?
It hasn't really been a big issue, but I think that'd be one of the reasons that we'd want to probably in the future implement like use full site version. Like on a lot of mobile sites, you can click to see the full site version if you're used to where something's at. But the way that this is laid out, it's not to where it's not going to unorganize it to where it not in a logical sense, because it's doing it based upon how you read from left to right. And instead of left to right, it just literally rotates and puts things from left to right to up to down. So in that sense, if you're expecting something to be on this far side, you read left to right, it would appear more at the bottom. So we haven't had too many issues with anybody complaining about that, but it could be an issue in the future.
I just know whenever I'm working on computers, like I'll drag windows to the side of the screen or I'll resize them. I mean, in that kind of scenario, the website would look different every single time I open it up.
Right.
It's just an idea.
Yes.
So from what I'm seeing, I think I can summarize most of your efforts having to do with rethinking the information architecture and the organization of information on the site. But I see that you decided to keep the same layout you work within the same layout structure. And I have, my questions are, what was your rationale for keeping the layout structure the same? And also, there are common guidelines for using an inverted L navigation format, where the main navigation is top and left, whereas on our website is top and right. And so I was wondering what your thoughts were about the layout and why you kept it this way rather than maybe changing it.
Okay. Well, the first thing, we kept the same general theme of the site, just so that it would coincide with the branding that's already in place in the College of Technology website group. So the College of Technology looks a certain way. It's got this very similar graphic on top, but it's gold, and all of the different majors in the College of Technology look a similar way. So we wanted to make sure that we were still maintaining that branding image of all the majors in the site.
Right, but that doesn't necessarily require you to use the 3-column layout in the main content area. Or
Right.
does it?
That was in part a design choice. Part of the reason that we used the pane on the right side instead of the left was because in our pilot studies we found that most users actually preferred that for this website.
Yeah, we did ask a question, some of the questions that we worded them, on most sites, do you find that the main navigational sidebar is either on the left or the right, but people put the left, and then we asked, do you find that the sidebar being on the right is more desirable? And they said that yes, it was on the right, and I don't know if that's just because they're used to it, or they actually really do like that. So we did justify that they liked it on the right, so that's why we kept it on the right.
I just had a question. You guys have your implementation and you tested it on your website with the PC. But did you also, for your mobile, you tested it on the iPad, but did you ever test it on like smartphones, like, or did you just use the iPad as sort of a catch-all for your mobile implementation? Because I believe that most students usually have smartphones instead of tablets.
For our product testing, we did use an iPad, but for just testing while we were designing, we used all our various smartphones. So that catches a large Android phone, small Android phone, and iPhone. Yeah.
What homework did you do regarding Purdue's policy on websites and the parameters that you're required to have?
Do you want to take this one on?
Yeah, we just use their, the Purdue branding toolkit, and they have guidelines, such things like the link back to Purdue. You have to always have the link back to the main site of Purdue. You just gotta like use their identity marks, their color schemes, things like that. Obviously, we had to take some liberties in some ways to kind of get what we wanted to push, but we did look at the guidelines. We tried to follow them as close as we could to achieve what we wanted.
Just two quick questions about the card sorting. Just out of curiosity, did you notice a change of what people said for the menu, like the card sorting, whereas the difference between that and the current site? Like the current and then what people said?
Unfortunately, we didn't get a whole lot of responses for the card sorting, but for the few that we did, there really wasn't that big of a change because we took the links that were on the current CGT site. So we took the links, all the options for the sidebars, and then we did like the main graphics and logos and things like that for them to choose from. And surprisingly, they were all pretty similar. You can go for it.
I'm trying to wrestle with the big issues here. You know, whenever I see computer graphics and I see very few graphics, that kind of concerns me.
I'll scroll up.
Oh, thank you. I was beginning to sweat it.
And it's dynamic, so however many images and link, they can all link to different articles, are put into this image slider. It's very easy to use. You can caption them yourself, and you can have as many or little as you want. So it's something that the department could use to frequently update the site, keep
And
it
this
looking fresh.
is very similar to the college side, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so it's the same, okay.
Yeah.
So one of the questions here, is there a correlation between the size of the real estate and usability?
You mean referring to maybe
Yeah, the real estate
buttons,
of a
links?
standard computer, I'm working on it, and then I'm grabbing my phone and working on it. So is this the big conundrum we're dealing with? Is how to effectively engage in views, clicks, user satisfaction, and all that stuff on basic computing portals? Is that the big deal?
I think the big deal is making sure that we can engage and create the most optimized experience for both people on any size computer screen and then any size mobile device, because it's all blending together more and more every day. So
Yeah,
we want to make sure we.
But I mean, from a design standpoint and usability standpoint, that's what we're risking, isn't it?
Yeah, but not so much as sacrificing usability of one for the other, but finding a place where it can be optimized for every device.
And so you made a correlate, you correlated, but you alluded to a relationship between the number of clicks on this versus on the standard screen, like you have to do 2 here and 1 there, and all that kind of stuff, right? But did you do a comparison between another site that was used on a phone and yours to see if they kind of were the same, or yours was better, or?
Well,
The only thing that we used to compare was the current CGT site and then our site.
Their mobile version.
yes.
So yeah, we
The
pulled it up
site
on the
that pulls
tablet.
up on the tablet, which is just the regular site, but
Okay.
shrunk. There was no mobile version that pulled up natively.
Oh, so
We
there's no
just pulled it
responsive
up.
design for the current
Right, so
college?
that's,
Okay,
that's what
okay,
we
yeah,
did.
I got
Yeah.
lost in for a second, because that's my normal mistake, so that's okay. You used a slider on that experiment. Were there degrees of freedom in the slider in your experiment? Could I do a 1.23?
No,
Okay, so you forced the dichotomy.
yeah, it
It'd
was
be
a
the good
1
or
to
bad.
7 Likert scale.
It looked like a 4 to me.
Oh, those were on our pilot study.
That was on the pilot.
Yeah, on
Okay.
our product testing, it was 1 to 7. 7.
So you were trying to force a preference in the beginning and then later on,
Right,
looking
yeah.
for degrees of,
And,
okay.
That was
Yeah.
based on consulting with
yeah,
Brian.
with Brian.
Yeah, that's good, that's good, I just want to make sure. you do it. The big questions, what are the industry standards of responsive design? Right, so you know those, and so how did you measure compliance?
Well, in our case, the standards are growing and changing very frequently. It's a very new thing. So while it is currently a very strong, growing web trend, it's not yet like a
It's
W3C standard.
recommended.
It's recommended.
They recommend it for use.
So you feel confident that you're at compliance at a level of release?
Their standards right now most entail certain dimensions, so you would have like a computer layout, and then when you got to a certain size that they deemed the tablet layout, it changes, and then again for the smartphone. And using things like when you go down to the smartphone, that little button that Miles used to create the drop-down menu, that's very prominent in responsive design sites.
Well, I'm trying to determine why your group's website doesn't work on my iPad, but we'll work for that later. Because it doesn't.
Did you put in our
It doesn't-
URL?
Yeah, it doesn't scale right, it goes all wacko. But this is an iPad 1, so this is a dinosaur. Anyway, and the other part of your inquiry was on the user-centered design. You know, what are the industry standards of user-centered design? In your testing, did you test for compliance to that? Is that what this was about? I'm trying to understand if you really tested on what you said you were testing on. That's what I'm trying to.
Part of what we tested on for our user experience design was a lot of qualitative feedback from the users throughout our pilot studies and our product testing. We wanted their satisfaction levels, we wanted their comments.
But there are industry standards for that, right?
Yes, there's an ISO standard.
And was your website, I think you asked in your original problem that your website would be more clear. What does that mean?
The definition of what CDT is all about is more clear. So some of the things we've done to help that was we've made the bigger banner with articles of things going on in CDT and CDT students. We brought student information to the forefront. We brought the CDT student showcase to the forefront, so prospective students can see this right away or click on that link right away and get a much quicker, clearer understanding of what CDT is all about. Yeah.
I'm just wondering, how did you choose what images to use in the image slider, or did you make any of those? Or like, if not, where did you get them? And is there a way to control the speed of it, because it seems like it's going like pretty fast? It's kind of hard to read.
Yeah, you could definitely control the speed of it. You can set it as fast or slow as you want. You can also control the transitions. We found these images on the internet. We wanted something for like our product that looked like, you know, it would be images that were already there. So this one is from the College Technology website, and this one is from the old CDT website. And we just wanted to show how this would work in an opportunity for the department to then start to create graphics and start to create new stories and ways to update. Yeah.
You're using terms like strongly recommend for this new technology. Could you define that and tell me what strongly recommend is in the industry? I'm more statistics based, so please define strongly recommend by people who are recommending this technology, I guess.
Do you mean responsible web design?
Yeah. I mean, I've heard it 3 times or 4 times. I'm just trying to figure out what strongly recommend means, actually. I know what it means from my term, but from a statistics term.
W3C mean when they recommend something as opposed to making a standard?
Okay, that's like one step below standard. So that means it's on their radar. They see that a lot of people are using it. It's becoming very popular. They see
Define
that.
a lot.
I'm not
60%,
sure.
70%. I'm trying to understand the research you're doing behind this in order to validate your selection. That's my conundrum, the whole thing.
I'm not sure how they define a lot.
Okay.
but it's one step below being a standard. They've acknowledged that it's the direction that web design is headed.
And these people are the ones that define everything about the web?
Correct.
That's what I'm trying to,
Yes.
that's what,
That is,
that's my,
yes.
that was my big
Okay,
question.
sorry.
These are the ones that are actually defining the standards.
Yep, they're
Okay.
the people who govern web
That's
design.
what I was trying to pull out. from
Okay,
it.
okay. Yes.
Okay, did you guys like test the new website on multiple browsers? And if so, like for your pilot survey and your testing, did you take that into consideration with your subjects, or like what browser they used while taking the survey, or was it just common?
We use the same browser during testing for all of them, just to ensure that it's similar from each device, so it's not something skewing anything because it's different. We try to make the controls of each test as close as possible.
During design, we did test on different browsers ourselves, just to make sure that we could cover as many popular browsers, make sure it works and looks great as possible. Yeah.
With your social media links, I noticed that they're kind of overhanging the header. Is that a design choice, or is that just an issue that you ran into?
It's just a design choice that we chose to go with.
I'm wondering why.
Um,
Did you do any testing and get any feedback on that? Because it just seems strange to me to have those buttons that are hanging potential content.
Well, I guess to answer that, since it is that way, obviously it's noticeable. I mean, you noticed it. We want to direct people to those things.
Okay.
So to make it kind of offset and not like in its own place, kind of brings attention to it. And
Part of your static header, isn't it?
Mhm.
You scroll, they
Yeah.
stay in place so that they're
Yeah.
always available.
You want to bring attention to them, so you're wanting people to leave?
I want people to, well, because once they leave, they go to our site, they can connect then and become, be a friend on Facebook, follow, and then they get updated news, not only when they're on the site, but when they're on any other media.
That's a link button, that's not taking me to the Facebook page and removing me straight from the page where I came to look for something?
Those are actually links to the pages, but
Okay.
those pages aren't actually in existence because we don't have the authority to make a page for them.
Also,
Major-
they would-
Right, I understand, but what you're saying is you're drawing attention to 3 buttons that are going to take me off of a page that you just redesigned and want me to stay on to find information.
Yeah,
So why are you emphasizing navigating away from the site?
it's not necessarily emphasizing, it's just letting people know that it's there and that there's a way to connect with the major other than just its site, it's the site itself.
They would open up a new window as well. And at the end of the day, the most important thing is to help increase the enrollment in CDT. And I think prospective students would really be interested in like a live, changing, adapting thing that they could really get a feel of what CDT is all about.